do you think makes a person beautiful?
Well, I think that humility is beautiful, and I aspire to it. I'm not perfect at displaying, the awesome amount of humility that I see in others, but I think it's the most beautiful quality.
Mm-hmm. Hi, I'm Christine Elstad for ACF Magazine, and I'm here with Chantal Kreviazuk. Thank you so much for joining us today. As you know, we're honored to have you here.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure.
So you're touring with Lilith Fair this summer?
A little bit. I mean, Lilith Fair is an interesting thing. It's Sarah's gig, and she kind of shares the stage with as many people as possible, which is a really cool idea. It's a great way of her promoting her career and her albums, and being able to sort of bring other people into the spotlight, which for a lot of artists is not an easy thing to do. So it's a really cool thing. But honestly, I'm only doing a few dates.
Okay,
but your name ends up a part of it,
Yeah,
which is very cool.
It
kind of almost gives a lot of people marketing opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's also an important thing for female artists as well.
Yeah. I mean, I love any opportunity to play. I'll play at the party, at the picnic. I will play. I played the other day for the Queen. There were 30,000 people there. I'll play my shows with a few thousand, and it's always changing. And I love that flow. I love that newness all the time.
Yeah, you got to meet the Queen the other day.
I did.
How was that? Were you nervous? No.
I mean, I have that whole perspective of everyone's just a human being. We're all on equal playing field. So I went into it with that, and then I realized, this is a bit of a different playing field. It was interesting. I didn't feel that way in the past when I have, done events with her offspring. But with her, I found it to be really quite different. It's history around her.
Yeah. And there's this sort of protocol you have to follow too, so you can't just be like, hey,
yo,
hey Elizabeth, hey Liz, what's up? Yeah. A lot of artists, let's say like yourself, Feist, Sarah McLachlan, you have a deeper sound to your music. Do you think that's a trait of Canadian female artists?
Sure, I really do. I think that in general, our music is a reflection of our culture and of the prototype of what it is to be Canadian. And I certainly feel there's a depth that, it's a different dimension that is sort of revealed in all that we do. And there's a deeper connection, I think, that one can make with an audience via this sort of cultural mindset. And that's not to say that, hey, there's not a place for the other. But, I think that my interpretation of what music is supposed to be is that it's supposed to create this incredible magical connection. And I think you have to push emotionally a little bit, whether it's via the lyric or the sound of the song. Something about it needs to just push, tug at the heartstrings, if you will, on some level. There needs to be a yearning.
Yeah. Were there any female artists that inspired you when you were younger, and what was it about their music or their message that spoke to you?
That's a very interesting question. I think that I listened to so much music and so many different genres of music, and that women have definitely played into my influence, ranging from Janis Joplin and Tori Amos to, I'm trying to think of when I was really, really little, who would have been... I discovered Carole King and Joni Mitchell later, but I think in very important times in my development as a singer-songwriter. When I was really shaping how I was going to interpret and write the song, how I viewed what the song is. That's when I kind of discovered them. And I think what it allowed for me getting to listen to those women's music was that what I was doing, I felt like, oh, okay, so I should keep this up. Like, I felt, kind of a connection, and I felt like, okay, I get it, I'm there, and I could just push it even further. And so those were really important influences. But I think when I was younger, to be honest, it was more sort of Stevie Nicks and Fleetwood Mac and, like, Neil Young and sort of that grouping. I don't know. It was different for me. And then... Yeah, I was a weirdo though too, because I listened to like a lot of Joe Jackson, and then I would really love and connect with jazz music, or and I was trained as a more classical singer, and my teacher Andrea was a huge influence just in my life, and she really helped me shape me as the sort of in the technical aspect, taught me about discipline and work ethic and all of that. So.
Yeah, well, that's interesting because you can hear. It sounds like you had a diversity of influences.
Yeah, it's pretty eclectic.
Yeah, but you can hear that in your music too, because you can hear the classical elements and also some of like the folkier stuff and the jazzier stuff too. So I think it's great you had that sort of wide range. Yeah,
certainly. I think the cool thing about embracing many dimensions and genres is that you're never really pigeonholed. You can go wherever you want, and people will just be excited about hearing the next step you took, as opposed to, well, I think I'm still going to get pigeonholed because I'm a female, so you automatically female, singer-songwriter, melancholic, whatever, people are going to say that. But, my influences are vast, and so I feel I can pull from many spots.
Now, you learned to play piano by ear, is that correct?
When I was really little.
I always think that's interesting because I play piano too, but that's the one thing I can't do. Like, I can't play by ear, so whenever I meet
you're
people
closed. I think you've just closed off that thing, but I think it's actually very natural to have an ear.
Yeah.
And for some reason, everything to me is a state of mind. Love is a state of mind, and I really think that your openness to a certain craft, or like for instance, I didn't paint my whole life, and I did my first painting, and it's incredible.
Really?
And I don't draw. I don't know how to draw, and so I spoke to a friend who is classically trained as a painter. And she said, "Oh, well, you just worked with lights and darks." And I said, "That's all I did." When I would pick a color, and I would see on a picture I was working from, well, this part's darker and that part's lighter. And I just kept creating it like a puzzle. And the reason I was able to do it was because I didn't tell myself I couldn't for the first time.
Yeah.
And then I just went with my instinct.
Yeah, I think you have a point there, though, because I think, I don't know if you ever did those Royal Conservatory exams.
I did.
But those would freak me out, so I think that
That's
kind of
right.
created
and
a
I think that
too.
Those situations can block, your success, because probably when you were alone, you could do it just fine. And then it's compromised when you're in a new environment and have these stresses. And so the trick of life is to be able to cut through that and to still be you and have your game on, even with these, other elements popping in.
How important do you think it is for children to grow up being surrounded by music and having an appreciation for it?
Well, I can just speak from my experience that, my parents were brilliant giving me, this gift, really worked hard so that I could benefit from, music. And I think my husband and I are completely open. We pass this on to our children. Actually, they're having their music lesson as we speak. They have a weekly lesson. We decided that we wouldn't push them at all in any area, and that, when we saw them showing an interest in certain things, then we would help guide and support. But I actually started having anxiety attacks because my kids were past the age that I was when I'd already started lessons. So I just finally broke down one day and I was like, I can't take it anymore. They have to know how to play piano. And the first week, my eldest, he was playing, I can't remember what it was. Was it Frère Jacques? Yeah, or Twinkle Twinkle or something. And I remember just going, thank God it's a song and he's playing it. Thank God. And then now my middle child, my second son, it took him a few weeks longer, but he is also playing the song. And, I just need them to have an understanding of the song, of, the shape of a song, of what it takes to be able to, that by going over to piano and banging it, nothing really happens, that there has to be a respect and an understanding that each note has its place and works with the rest of the keyboard. I think that there's a lot to that, So I'm really thrilled that that's being weaved into their life now.
Yeah. Well, they're probably surrounded by it all the time, too, having two musicians as parents.
And so one would sort of, what can happen is it's sort of like the shoemaker's kid never having shoes, like, well, you're always around shoes. You must have a pair of shoes. But it doesn't work that way. He's not going to naturally know how to do things. I mean, yes, I played by ear, and I have a great ear. That's definitely true. But I don't, and I think most people naturally, there is a possibility of having a great ear. But my belief is that if you don't have technical skills, there's no way of manifesting that ear abilities. So, my fear was that, they would have all this, like, their ear would be ringing, but they wouldn't have had the benefit of getting those technical skills. So that's something that I want to pass on to them, even at a very rudimentary level, just something.
Now, a lot of kids grow up playing an instrument or just enjoying music, but not a lot actually go on to make it into a career.
Right.
So at what point did you decide, this is actually something I can make a living doing?
Well, I think what happened was I was always that girl.
Okay.
And so there was a sort of an evolution of me embracing it and me fighting it and me forgetting and me realizing and, and so it went on and on and on like this. And I think when I really realized, like, that something was amiss was when I was in university and I was studying so hard, and it just dawned on me, I just went through 11 years of studying music, and I'm schooled, and that's who I am, and now I'm going again to get schooled at something else, and I'm not completely sure what that even is. This is bizarre. And I just realized that I had already been educated, and I had this whole extracurricular education built in already. Why was I wasting my time? And the funny thing was that I was doing weird things like taking a music class to help my GPA because it was just going to be so natural for me to
So it's kind of
do
like,
well.
so why are you wasting your time?
Why am I wasting time with the things that are not as natural?
Of course, yeah.
And so, I'm just a very lucky person in that I'm able to work from a really natural place, and I know that's a gift. I know that a lot of people don't get to do that.
Of course. Were your parents supportive of you when you said that you wanted to pursue this professionally?
Well, I think that they were a little sick of me by the end of my teens. I think that I had, like, rubbed them the wrong way quite a bit. And so I think that they were kind of like, you're under our roof, but you're on your own. You got to figure it out. And so they gave me a lot of support as a young person, as a child and as a young girl. But then they sort of started to pull back a little and let me figure it out. And then I kind of fell into a wonderful situation. I had demos, they were sent to a label, and I got a record deal. So, it all worked out. I do think it's a bit of a Cinderella story.
I've read that early in your career you actually used to write songs for commercials.
Yeah, I did jingles.
Do you remember any of them?
I did my dad's jingle for his company.
Okay.
It was, get into the sun, get into the water, get in a Crevco. Yeah, I think they still use it on their hold button at the stores.
Do they advertise who sings it now, or?
I don't know.
People probably call in and they have no idea.
I know that voice.
Yeah, where have I heard her
Pretty
before?
Funny. I did Arlene's Draperies. Don't ask me how I just remembered that, because that is from 22 years ago. It just dawned on me.
Yeah, well, I guess that's the thing with those songs, right? They're meant to stick in your head.
There you go.
Obviously, you did a good job
because
you still remember it.
Yeah.
And
Pretty
I'll probably,
funny.
next time I see Arlene's Draperies,
then you'll know.
Exactly.
But, I think that was the era that I was doing jingles. That was a period of realization that I could make money as a musician, But then I wasn't making it an all-encompassing vocation meets avocation. Like, that was like, it'll be my vocation. But what I do now, and what I eventually sort of, luckily found, was the ability to sort of have both, and to be able to express myself as a person in an honest, authentic way, and then also to be able to, make a living at it, which is a real coup.
You said that it was a serious motorcycle accident that sort of inspired that change in you?
Yeah, I kind of hit a wall when I had my accident. It just sort of, it put me in a position where I had to sort of start over in a way. I suppose brought me back to square one in a way, and really everything was sort of lost at that point. And the only thing that was really there was my love for music, and you know, I could still sit at the piano, and it comforted me so much. Yeah. So that's when all these sort of like sad and beautiful songs came out, like Surrounded and Wayne, and you know, just a lot of material came out that was yearning, and yeah, that's how it happened.
Yeah, well, it's good that like such a traumatic event, it kind of led to something positive, though.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't think that anything wonderful or beautiful comes easily. If you've ever had a baby.
So when your first album came out, you were quite young still, and at the time you were poised to become this huge star. How were you able to deal with that kind of pressure being so young at the time?
I moved. I got away from myself. That was the best thing I could have done, and I still love it. Like, I love that I have this amazing life in Canada where, you know, I have a career, people embrace my music, I'm a small part of this incredible tapestry of culture, and I love it. But then I can go away, and I get away from myself, and I cultivate just this, like, anonymous person that, you know, matters very little in the scheme of things. And I think that that's how my husband and I both identified ourselves and perceived ourselves better, and so I think that's what really saved me.
Kind of kept you humble a little bit.
Yeah, it just made everything just make much more sense.
And I think one thing that a lot of your fans really respect you for is the fact that over the years you've really stayed true, I think, to your music and to your image.
Try. Yeah.
Succeeded at it. Yeah.
Thank you. It's not easy, especially now. Things are really, really changing quickly, but I'm trying to find ways to, you know, let my career progress in a way that's honoring to my life, my lifestyle, my family, and then also trying to, you know, maintain what it is I do as an artist and not be totally, like, wooed by new sounds, thinking that it's going to, like, you know, take me to a different level. I mean, that's not really what I want to do. But I do love to flirt, you know, with trend. That's kind of, you know, that's the way I dress, that's the way I eat, that's the way I love to incorporate, but not to get away from what is just quite simple and classic.
Yeah, and I think there's a difference between, again, sort of evolving your sound naturally and your look, and then sort of
pushing it.
Yeah, like you're intentionally trying to
latch
on to what the latest thing is. You know?
It's true, and I think people, like, you know, there's two sides to people. They have the things that are like their candy, their cotton candy, their, you know, their popsicle, and then they have their sort of meat and potatoes. They have the thing that, you know, they really want it to be there, their comfort food. And I would rather be that, because I don't know, that other thing is just not me. So, and that's a tough thing to come back and maintain and chase. And I think it could drive you a bit mad. So instead, you know, there's definitely a downside to what I'm doing, because I never feel like, you know, my it girl's done. Like, that's, you know, but the fact that I was able to find, you know, who I am and maintain that, that's lovely, and I'm happy there.
Yeah, I think it's more important to have this body of work and this career that you're proud of, as opposed to, okay, like...
Yeah. I mean, you know what, if you have a hit worldwide and everybody embraces one song of yours and you're an icon forever from that one song, all the power to you. That's awesome. You know, and that's just not the way things happen for me. So I am here in this place of, you know, looking at a whole body of work. But for me also, what I do is I sit up on a stage, sometimes for 90 minutes or 2 hours at a piano, and I play, and I feel like if I only had one song people knew, that would make me feel rather naked for the rest of, you know, the show. And so, yeah, if you have this amazing career and, like, suddenly everybody knows all of your songs, like Lady Gaga, and it's like bam, 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 we know she can go on stage now. We would almost know, like, 6 or 7 songs already, and she's only been around for a year. That's amazing, and that's a once in a lifetime. That's not going to happen with everybody. But now, over a course of time, I mean, now when I design my set, you know, I can sit at a piano by myself and entertain people, and 60 minutes of it, at least, you know every song. Or you should, because it's been on the radio, whatever. Yeah. But that's kind of more what, you know, and that takes a long time and to cultivate that, so.
I want to talk to you a little bit about your songwriting, because, of course, that's one of these things that you're really known for. How do you start writing a song?
I don't know. Can you tell me? Well, yesterday I did a writing session with a new girl on The Verge named Daryl London. I don't know if you've heard about her yet. She's been getting a little bit of buzz and embraced by one of the big bloggers, and anyway. So she's in a great position right now. So she has a piano thing to her. She plays and sings. She plays quite well, actually. She's a great ear, and she has some classical training, so there's a similarity to what we do. So it was a neat pairing. When we sat down to write, we started writing on Thursday. We had 2 4 or 5 hour sessions, Thursday and Friday. The social aspect of writing, particularly for co-writing, really comes into play. You want to sit and get to know the individual and get a sense of who they are. And sometimes I don't even need to have ever heard their music. I can just sit with them, and then all of a sudden the right thing happens, and that's really interesting. We turned out. The first song we wrote? I think I had a chorus melodic idea, and I really looked to her to start to give of herself on an emotional, mental level, and start to think of a concept. And as she would share her thoughts, we try to make some. It's like a puzzle, and we try to bring these thoughts and concepts into diction and that fits with singing. So you want to articulate a strong concept and make it match the melodies, and it can happen different ways. Sometimes, like when I remember when I wrote Surrounded, I had the idea, and I was in a friend's car, and I got home, and I hopped in the shower, and I sang the whole song, and then I got out of the shower mid-shower, and I ran to a tape recorder, and I taped it all, and then I went back in the shower, and I just kept singing and singing and singing, and it was done. The lyric was there, everything done. On my recent album, Plain Jane, there's this one song called Halfway Around the World. I was running, and I went on my trail run that I do, and I was running into the path, and I started to write the song. I was very excited about it, and I thought I had figured out, okay, I've got it all memorized. But when I turned around, the new setting going the opposite direction made me forget the song. So I had to turn around again and run the other way and keep singing it over and over until I could remember it. And then when I really, really, really thought I could remember it, I ran back to my car. And I drove home, and I went straight to the piano, and I taped the whole thing. And I really love that song, So it's weird. Sometimes I write things, and I kind of deep down I know it'll never stick. But other times I just know this is going to be a song that's in my life.
So to stop what you're doing and get it down on paper, or record it before you forget. Yeah.
There's this other girl I wrote with recently, and she is just an absolute lamb of God. This one, her name's Katie Sutherland, and she's in a band called Pearl and the Puppets. But she's Scottish, so it sounds like she's saying Petal and the Puppets. It's so cute. Anyway, she's Elton John signing, and so she's kind of got another she has a bit of a piano element, folky kind of thing to her. We wrote this great song, but they put us in the Sony ATV publishing building in this tiny writer's room because my husband was using our studio. So I was like, I'll go in the writer's room at Sony. So I put us in this little room, and I walked in, and it was just so stale. I was like, how are we going to... There's no soul in this room. But there were 2 souls, her and me. And, I had my computer, and I popped on an Indian... I think it was Drum Loop's website, and just listened to this really cool loop over and over again. And we wrote the song inspired from this loop, and then we just turned the loop off, and then all of a sudden we had this song. And now we have this amazing song that I absolutely adore, and it's called If I Were You, and it's beautiful. It's so good. So it's interesting, you can pull inspiration from different places. Sometimes it's, just literally, it's meeting the person. I think it's best to go in with an idea or go in with a melody. Or certainly as a writer-producer, from the mentoring perspective, go in expecting that you're going to use something of that person, because that's where the authenticity is going to come from.
Yeah.
But just whether it's in my solitude as a writer or for myself or anyone else, I like going into to new environments, because I think that's where you can pull in new inspiration. Like just a change of the atmosphere of a room can be
You've collaborated with a lot of artists and written songs for them, Mandy Moore, Kelly Clarkson, Avril. What's your most memorable collaboration so far?
Oh, well, I mean, they're all memorable and special in a different way. I mean, Pink coming over and working with her was great. I haven't worked with her since. I don't think we're going to work together again. We had a great time, but she's really in her groove with a few. It's hard to get into that camp, and so I really see the one time I wrote with her with my husband as a huge coup and a huge privilege. And the song we wrote did get cut, but it was poised to be her first single. And when they didn't use it as her first single, her record was already done, so they didn't put it on the record. Anyway, that was awesome because she's a genius. Like, she sits there and you're writing and you're not sure, like she has a bit of a poker face, and then all of a sudden she just churns out like a full phenomenal double concept and lyric, and it's rather mind-blowing. I love working with talented people who aren't simply, really going in with much more than an ego. A lot of people just come in with their ego, and you're going to do the work, and they're going to sort of usurp from your soul, and then they're going to take all the credit later, and that's one way of doing it. And hey, I've got to be there sometimes, but I really get so inspired by people who have talent and who come in and have something to. I didn't actually work with Gwen Stefani on the track that I ended up getting credit on, but she's another one. She has, I do know her. I mean, I've met her, and she is so talented in her own right. I mean, if you look at the songs she's written by herself, it's seriously phenomenal. People like her. I mean, there are so many people that they could probably almost do it on their own, but there's nothing like collaboration and creating a team effort. The girl I wrote with yesterday, she'd never written with anyone before, so she was nervous about it, and it was really fun to watch the transformation, seeing her become, so engaged and like into it, and sort of really fulfilled by the experience, and just saying, that was just so much fun. And so it's a lot of fun to work with other people. It can get lonely and scary by yourself writing, and the songs will always lean more melancholic if you write alone.
So when you write a song because I know sometimes you write songs, you're doing all the writing and they're not involved.
Right.
Do you ever give a song to someone and then they perform it and you're not so thrilled with what they've done?
Absolutely, because there's many factors that go into getting cuts. Like when, we've written, I'm not going to say which songs they are, but, there have been songs even recently where it's like, wrote the song, got to give it away. You hope it's going to go to a certain artist, but maybe it ends up with another artist. And even if it does go to the artist that you hoped that it would go to, you're giving it up to the record company, the management, the producers, the artist themselves, and all of a sudden your demo or what you thought your song sounded like sounds like something else. They'll even throw on another writer to like fix it up so it sounds more of the genre that it's going to or whatever, and you have no control over that. And but that's just part of it, and I think it's really just ultimately an honor and a privilege, and just a lightning strike that even the seed of something you create ends up growing into this incredible, thing, powerful thing. So it's really cool. I mean, I wrote this song a while ago for Josh Groban, and Josh didn't end up using it, but Joe Cocker did. And I mean, it's totally not what I expected. But hey, Joe Cocker, nothing wrong with that. That was cool.
A lot of your song titles, for example, What If It All Means Something in This Life, Ordinary People, they kind of have a deeper meaning to them.
I could stop that.
No, I think it's great, though. Would you say that with your music, you're kind of trying to narrate the human experience?
Yeah, a little bit. And I think, I get scared because right now that's so not popular. Like, that's not what's going on quite as much in music. And I'm hoping to continually along the way find an innovative way of being able to say what is less and less being said, and to just continue on that path is important to me. And it's kind of just, I don't know, I find it difficult to write about things that I see are just more frivolous. That's just how I identify with music, but that, like I said, there's no judgment. I mean, there's a place for everything, and that's just a little bit.
No,
but, I also, as I write songs for other people, I'm becoming a little more embracing of simplicity and writing about something that doesn't have to be changing the world all the time. That's cool too.
Yeah, but I think you should continue that though, because I think we do have enough of the sort of superficial.
Yeah, but like combining those two things is cool too, right? I don't know. I'm curious to see what goes
that.
next. Yeah, I'm working on that.
Yeah. What makes a song special or exceptional to you?
Well, being a hit. No. When a song feels like it has that depth,
Yep.
but it can also feel universal and make everybody want to sing along, I like that.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that too.
Personally.
I also think timelessness helps too, because I've been listening to some of your older stuff too, and you can't really tell. Like when I go back and listen to stuff from your first album, I don't think like, oh, this sounds like it's from the '90s. Like, it still sounds good today.
Yeah. I don't like to be very like trendy.
Yeah.
A little bit.
You recently changed labels to Maple Music.
Uh-huh.
What led to that decision? If you can talk about it, if not.
No, I mean, I have no hard feelings. I think the music business is in a different place. And when I signed my contract with Sony, it was many years, not many, but like it was a decade or plus ago. And, back then everybody was spending money and it was a different time. And I mean, it's just the business has shrunk some, so it just didn't work anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming you're happy with Maple Music.
I only have a 1 or 2 album deal with them, and I don't know. I'm still figuring it out. Not being off of a major, I'm not sure. Do I want to be on a major? I'll see.
But I think it's a cool kind of cultural initiative, though, because it is Canadian artists.
Right. But I think more and more, like, I might just put a song out whenever I feel like it, just put it up on iTunes and even have independent promotion, take it to radio. And, I don't think you need to make a whole album because I don't know that people are really as into the whole album experience anymore.
Yeah,
so
it's definitely changed with technology and everything.
Yeah,
too,
I have a different feeling about things, so we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, do you think that Canadians, do you think we're supportive enough of our artists? And if not, what could we do differently? That's
a really loaded question. I mean, I feel I've been very supported. I really do. So as much as I could have been supported, I think I have been. So from my perspective, I think it's been great. And when I'm home, I get opportunities to be around other artists and see, and it's like people are able to go around this country and have a job at being an artist. That's pretty cool. Culturally, people love their Canadian roots, they love their Canadian music, and they're pretty embracing. I think that commercially, they tend to look to, the international success story, and there's like a bit of a, I don't want to call it an insecurity, but I don't know, it's like, it's I suppose more reassuring somehow, builds their confidence as an audience or something when a person has international success, and that makes sense. It's a little more glitzy and cool, but I don't know. I also think there's something really cool about that ownership. That this is ours. It's Canadian, and we can keep it for ourselves too. And I see both. I think there's a real place in our culture for both.
I think you have an interesting perspective too, because you do live in the United States and you're sort of back and forth between the two countries.
And I so appreciate Canada and what it's all about because I get to see both sides, and so I'm really grateful for all of it.
So we were talking a little bit before about how when you are in the United States, you're able to live a sort of more quote-unquote normal existence.
Yeah.
As opposed to, I guess, when you come to Canada and you're a major celebrity. So what's your normal day-to-day life like in California when you're at home?
Well, the kids come wake me up and I say, Ron, can you babysit? Like every mother. I'll turn the TV on for you guys and I'll lay here for 15 minutes. That's my morning. And Earl Grey tea or a chai latte as quickly as possible.
But no more chai lattes though, right?
But yeah, I'm not going to do the Starbucks ones anymore because of all the stuff in them.
Yeah.
But there's a place called Avant-guard down the street from our house, and they do a real one without syrup. They're so good. But yeah, we're very about the tea bags in the house, and I also have a really good espresso machine. And no, but the kids are really busy, and they want to go first thing. Rowan and Luca tend to go to they tend to wake up and be really independent. They brush their teeth. They put on their own clothes, and their outfits are really important to them. Last year was a real tough year with making sure that Luca could get the clothes he wanted to get. I redesigned their closets so they can reach everything. They have little stools. The kids can be really independent and figure out what they want to do. in that respect, and then the day begins. And if it's school, then I usually take Rowan to school, and Rain takes Luca. But next year they'll be in the same school because Luca's finally in kindergarten. So I'll be driving both boys to the same school, which will be a lot of fun. And then Salvador and I do like mommy and me classes and stuff. So the morning is really focused on family and the kids. And once they're like kind of in their groove for the day, then I'll try to get in the studio. Sometimes it's like I'll put on my Pilates or running outfit at 7:30 in the morning, and I'll swear I'm going to go for a workout, and I'll look at my watch. It'll be 2:30, and I still haven't gotten there. And then I'm like, okay, screw it, and then I take it off, and then I just go in the studio and I start to work. So then we kind of work, and then we'll do dinner as a family. Rain usually cooks dinner and has like a fish, and I make my big stupid salad I make every day, and the children pick at all of my food because mommy's food is better. I don't understand that, but it is, and it makes me crazy. And then we try to get a little more time in the studio, and then we do night with the kids, and then Rain and I try to either get some work done or we go up and watch an episode of Friday Night Lights and go to sleep.
Sounds like you have a really nice balance then between
that's our day. That's our day. And then we try to play tennis or do something together, like as a couple, Rain and I, once a week with our friends, and we try to go on a date night or go for dinner, or we have a couple of couples in LA that we're really close with because they're living on our street, or our kids go to school together, or what have you. And then there's this whole other thing of like when we travel, but it's sort of like this weird time warp you go into, and then you just come home and it's all right back again. And Rain and I try to keep pretty consistent with, both. He'll do like a tour with his band, and I'll do, my symphony tour, and then he'll go out. Like we try to do things a little bit separately, and by using some of the same staff people, like tour management or front of house engineer, they can only be with them and then me. So it works out really well. And then sometimes if I have like one-offs, I'll find that, he'll be away at the same time as me for maybe 24 or 48 hours. So we're set up for that to happen. But, the children are really sensitive to that because we spend so much time with our family as a family unit. And so we just try to work toward being, someone at home, one parent at home, always,
And it's great that you're able, we were talking about this before again, just that there's always sort of someone there to be with the kids.
Yeah, it's good, I think it's just a balancing act. I know that everybody in every household is always working away at this balance, and we're just another family doing that.
Okay. Before we wrap up, I just want to talk to you a bit about some of the charities that you're involved with.
Yeah.
I saw some clips of the film you did, Pretty Broken. Very powerful and very intense, and it kind of makes the viewer a bit uncomfortable, and I think that's obviously what you're going for. Why did you decide to write that film?
Well, I have been really touched by mental health in my life, and it's not comfortable. It's really, really hard, and I think that that discomfort has been the vein of my existence. It's one of my great anchors in my life, and no one wants to feel that feeling of discomfort, and yet the people who are subjected to it or have a loved one around them, who's deeply affected by a mood disorder, it's inevitable that you're going to feel that way. And I think that as a society, the more that we sort of push people with their differences and their problems sort of to the side, and they become taboo, we're less comfortable every time we're around it. And so now, for example, if I walk onto a psych ward, or I go into any kind of a co-occurring rehabilitation clinic, or I'm around people with addictions or anything, I'm not uncomfortable. It's the same for me as if I'm, in other really, situations where people are in a place of adversity. So I think that it's about, tolerance has a lot to do with, muscle memory. And if you are able to open your heart and sort of embrace what it really is and be accepting of it, then you won't have to have an aversion. You won't have to feel scared. And maybe we can, if we are all a bit more open, we can start to embrace what is, I think, a great sort of a miss that we have in our society. I think that people, whether it's, the issues of poverty, Aboriginal issues, mental health issues. The people who are at the heart of the matter are no less than those of us who live in a more lucky existence, who have been born into an easier life. And the reality is that those people, with all of their challenges and adversities, they too have phenomenal importance and are part of this tapestry of life, of culture, of progress and of civilization. And they are potentially our great teachers. They are our support in our infrastructure of society. They are the glue in potentially many areas. And so if we choose, it's kind of like when we cut down forests so that we can make space. Well, okay, that's one way of looking at it. Or if we cut down forests so we could create new furnishings and so on. Well, the problem with that is that when you cut it away, now we don't know what was there and what could have been, a really important part of the medicine of our world, or what have you. And I think there's a similar relation to people when we push them to the side because of their differences and things that we're, unaware of in them, or we have ignorance about what their deal is. Ultimately we're pushing away something that is ours, that we're entitled to in them. And we're all a team. We all hold each other up, and we all make each other better and better and better and better and better. So I think that we all deserve to have our life force honored and explored, and we all deserve to shine. Every single one of us has light. And I think for me, watching very, very closely someone who has struggled, for example, with mood disorder, it's very powerful because I know the gifts and possibilities within that person, and to see them not be able to have them come to fruition is very painful. And every single person has equal amounts of positive traits and gifts. So that's one of the reasons I've wanted to bring this issue into light a little more.
Well, I commend you for doing that, because I don't think it's something that we see enough of.
Yeah,
Talked
I
about
agree.
publicly.
So true.
Yeah.
And just to add to that, when I work with, I see the same thing with people in conflict regions and people who are stuck in, politically or via issues of poverty, education, whatever. For them, they are also unable to shine. And all they may need is support to get where they need to go, to get out of their, whatever their imprisonment is. And so it's really the same.
Yeah.
It
kind of connects to your work, I guess, with War Child.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I see the same thing.
Question,
I see the same thing when I'm working with War Child Canada. The programs that they're creating are essentially to take people out of this place of not feeling like they can be who they're meant to be. And there are millions and millions of people living in situations such as this, And so, anyway, I've had an opportunity to see that everybody is certainly unique and has something else to offer, but at the same time, we're all the same in that we just want to be given an opportunity to sort of grow and develop and come into our own.
Okay, and our last question, because I know your fans probably want to know, but what's next for you? Are you working on anything right now?
I'm sort of in a really, I don't know what I'm doing right now. I've been working with a lot of other artists, but then these songs are, emerging for me that I'm really excited about.
Yeah.
So, I've gone into different directions as far as what the genre will be for the next effort, but then also deciding on, really is it a full-length album? Am I going to do, some kind of concept record? I don't know. I decide and then I'm undecided. So we'll see. But I have a symphony tour coming up that I'm really, really excited about, and a bunch of theater dates surrounding that.
Yeah.
So
you're coming to Oakville. Is that
okay, I believe you. and so
that's where I'm from, so that's why I remember that.
Yeah, no, I think I am. Yeah, for a theater date.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about. It's going to be a very busy rest of the year, and I'm going to be going back up to the north again to help out Polar Bear International with the mitigation of climate issues there. And for the first time, I'm going to be able to take my husband, and George Stroumboulopoulos, who's a big fan of polar bears but has not yet been in the actual zone. So that's going to be a riot because my husband's nemesis is cold. So I'm going to crack up. And I'll try and keep him warm.
All right, well, thank you so much for
you.
taking the time to sit with us.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, it's been a great interview.
Thank you.
So much.